I remember teasing and playing jokes on Friends with things like whoopee cushions, maybe shooting a rubber band. They're firing guns.
Pretty close to him.
And nearly hitting half sack. And for them, it's funny. It's a joke. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, you are watching part 2 of tonight's 3-part show. We've just finished part 1 where we both did a tasting of Michter's US 1 Kentucky Straight Bourbon. And Ken, I think we found you a new favorite.
Yeah, it's way up there. I'm going to pour myself top off my glass here because this is really good.
I got to say, I'm a little surprised that you like it so much because, as we've talked about on prior shows, you tend to lean towards a sweeter bourbon with a higher corn or wheat mash bill. And I wouldn't say that Michter's is a sweet bourbon.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't either. It's just the spectrum and the flavor is just so complex, and I don't know what it is. I have no formal training, as we've discussed.
Yeah, we don't know what the mash bill is. We don't know what the age statement is. I would assume it's a fairly young bourbon. It to me drinks like a fairly young bourbon, but it drinks like a really good bourbon. And to your point, that spectrum and the flavor profile, it feels like we're getting an early taste of a really great bourbon that's still aging.
Yeah.
And so it just makes me want to get into some of their other
most definitely
limited release bourbons because I think they're going to be spectacular.
Yeah.
All we've got to do is find them.
Yeah, that's the trick. Well done, though.
So
I'm very, very pleased with this one.
So what we say we're up to now? 11 fans?
Last I looked, yeah.
Number?
I mean, that's pretty safe to say. I think maybe a little more.
All right. So for the 11 fans out there that are watching the show, I've got 2 requests for you. Number 1, share the show with about 100 other friends so we can grow our numbers. That would be hugely helpful. But number 2, let Michter's know they need to drop a couple bottles in the mail to Ken and I.
Yeah.
That would be really helpful.
Yeah, that would be appreciated.
Because as much as it's difficult buying new bourbon every single week for this show, it's becoming even more challenging because, Ken, you just simply can't find it.
No. This state it's hard to find here. It comes in, it's immediately gone when it gets here. When it's on the shelf, it's gone.
So we need some help, Michter's. That's what we're saying.
That's what we're
Michter's,
saying.
if you're out there, we need some help. All right. Before we jump into tonight's episode of Sons, I do want to quickly remind everyone to please like and subscribe. Again, click that little bell at the top of your page so you don't miss any future shows. And then be sure to leave us your questions and comments in the comment section below. Or if you don't want to do that, email your questions to us at ask@bourbonbros, that's BROS.TV. And remember that if your question doesn't suck, we may even answer it on a future show. All right, let's get into tonight's discussion of Sons of Anarchy Season 2, Episode 1, titled Albification.
Season 2.
Ken?
Yeah.
September 8, 2009.
Wow.
We have jumped to 2009.
2009. It's been 2008 until this point.
Now, if there's one benefit of us reviewing a show that ended almost 7 years ago, it's that we don't have to wait through the hiatus to get to the next season. We finished season 1 last week. Bam, we're right into season 2 this week.
That won't be a problem here. Not for this series.
And this one was written by Kurt Sutter. So again, he finished us off at the end of season 1. He's kicking us off in season 2, which is great. And I got to say, after watching the season ender last week and discussing it, I would have been pissed having to wait 8 or 9 months for season 2 to come back around.
Yeah.
I'm glad we get to get into it a week later. All right. Should we get into a quick synopsis?
Yeah, let's do that.
All right. So once again, I've kind of edited this down so I don't give away the whole episode, but I'll give you kind of the salient details. Sam Crow is still reeling from Donna's death, and it leaves much of the club divided. Clay sets up a new gun deal with the IRA. The League of American Nationalists, or LONE, a white separatist group, takes root in Charming and threatens more than just Sam Crow's control over Charming. And when asking Sam Crow nicely to stop selling guns to non-white gangs, and that doesn't work, LONE decides to use Gemma to send the club a message.
Yeah, that they do.
We got to get into that, and we will do so. But man, you talk about kicking off a season with a bang. This episode hits hard.
Yeah, hard to watch at certain times, isn't it?
Yes, it does. It does. There are those moments where it's really fun and funny, and then there are those moments that are difficult to watch. We get a little bit of both in this episode. Ken, what were your overall thoughts on the episode?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I have any, hard, reviews that I can just summarize here in a few sentences, but we're introduced to some new characters. We'll talk about that, I'm sure. It kind of takes over from where the last episode left off.
Yeah, I think for me, and I wouldn't say I'm surprised. I'm actually glad. There was so much in this season opener. As I was watching the episode, the first thought that came to mind is, how are we going to cover all of this on this show? There's so much here.
Yeah, they are planning a lot for what will become the season, what's going to unfold.
Right.
So they're planting
They're
seeds.
really trying to lay everything out, and you get a little bit of a lot of different moments in this episode.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Yeah, completely. Well put.
So you mentioned new characters. We have some new characters.
Yeah, I'm just afraid I'm going to not remember them all. But we get Ethan Zobel.
Yes, played by the phenomenal Adam Arkin.
Yes. And he is the leader of the League of American Nationals, correct?
Yes.
We have Edmund Hayes, right?
Right. So this is
Cameron's right-hand man.
Thank you. Yes, Cameron's right-hand man. Yep, we see him at the beginning when Sam Crow is checking out the guns and trying to strike up a deal with the Irish. We'll talk about that.
We have Jacob Hale, which is Deputy Hale's brother.
Yes, we get Deputy Hale's, or I should say Deputy Chief Hale's brother.
Right. We have AJ Weston, who is another Aryan, right?
Yes,
and
played by Henry Rollins.
Yes. So he's Ethan's right-hand man.
Correct. A lot of right-hand man.
Yeah, a lot of people there. They're building their little groups.
And don't forget Polly Zobel, who makes an appearance in this episode.
Where'd I miss that one?
So Polly is the daughter of Ethan Zobel, and she is the one that lures Gemma.
Oh, okay. I didn't put that together. Okay.
Yes, that is Ethan Zobel's daughter. We'll see more of her in future episodes.
Okay. All right. Any more?
So
was that about it?
I think that's all of them.
Okay.
If memory serves. So if we've missed any, let us know in the comments. But I think those are the 5 that I would characterize as recurring characters.
Okay.
And then as far as main storylines, I'm kind of going into this with the premise that we've not seen anything beyond this point. Okay. Right? Like you and I have watched the series, but if we think about going through this for the first time and not wanting to, no spoilers, right? So with that in mind, this being the first episode of the season, it's not fair to really differentiate between what are the episodic storylines and what are going to be recurring storylines, because we don't necessarily know yet.
Right. Fair enough.
So for the purpose of the first episode, I'm going to kind of just lump all the storylines together, and we'll talk about kind of the major ones. So there's Cameron and the new right hand Edmund Hayes, right, who are going to continue to take over the gun sales to Sam Crow. And the main storyline right now being that they want to change the arrangement that was in place. You have Tig and Clay, who are very concerned about the fact that Jax and Piney know that they were the ones that accidentally killed Donna, and when they were trying to kill Opie. And so that's an issue. As you mentioned, we've got Ethan Zobel and his lone cronies arriving in Charming. The one storyline that we can say is absolutely recurring is Tara and Gemma's relationship, which I think in this episode turns the corner.
Yeah, finally, and we'll talk about that.
Yep. We have Unser's health, which I think got touched on in season 1, but I think it takes a more serious tone in this episode in season 2. And then we have Opie, who's really kind of wrestling with, past and present, right? So while Donna was alive and now that Donna's not alive, and reconciling, what life was like before and after. And there's a lot to get in there. But he's clearly struggling with her loss and what life looks like for him now that she's no longer part of it.
Right.
Anything that you think I missed?
No, I think that covers it.
All right.
Yeah, let's get into it. I mean, the first thing, let me take the first one here.
Yeah, go for it. Jump in.
Just the opening. To me, it seemed like I had forgotten that there was going to be credits rolling in this one. I don't know about you, but it was a long opening.
We went 12 and a half minutes.
Was it that long?
12 and a half minutes before the opening credits roll.
Wow. That's a long opening. But, I mean, it was well worth it. I was enjoying everything I was watching. You see, Sam, it opens with they're testing out these guns with the Irish,
yes.
right? These new guns. Then they kind of take matters into the new warehouse, right?
Yeah, which is the Irish warehouse.
It's the Irish warehouse, okay.
Well, maybe it's not. Maybe it's theirs. I'm not sure. I don't know that they clearly.
I talked about it being this is the rebuilt warehouse, because as they were discussing the new arrangement, one of the points was, you've got IRA watching you. You don't want to lure them to your new structure here.
Right. I do remember that. I just didn't know if they were talking about the one they were standing in. But yeah, that's a great point. It could have been.
Yeah, it could have been. Well, we'll have to look out for that next time. But they're there and they're basically talking about the Irish wants to change the game, as you mentioned, right? They want to. They don't want to sell them the Russian guns anymore. They want to sell them some other knockoff.
What's your deal? We sell, ship, store. You load your saddlebags, deliver. Charter to charter, give you 20%.
We get 60%, we assemble our own.
We carry all the risk and overhead.
So basically, you're Instacart for guns. That's all you are. You're just a driver making a delivery, and we'll give you 20%, which, understandably, Sam Crow's not thrilled with this arrangement, considering they've been making 60% by selling the guns wholesale in one transaction. And now they've got to go ride all over the country delivering these guns, or all over California, delivering these guns and only getting 20%.
Right. Well, let's not jump ahead. I'm sorry to kind of steal your thunder there, but that's kind of how it opens. They're at that. They're firing those guns. It turns out he's been away on a ride.
Yeah, you see him with his knapsack on the back, and he doesn't look like he's shaved in 6 weeks.
Yeah, he was out, clearing his head, so to speak, kind of getting away, thinking things through. So he's seen returning. You see Tara; she's performing surgery there, so you get a glimpse of her.
Yeah, and it was interesting in that opening scene because I don't know, and maybe I just missed it, but up until this point, I hadn't thought of Tara as a surgeon.
Yeah, I hadn't either.
I thought of her as a doctor.
A doctor, but not necessarily a surgeon.
So that was kind of interesting to me.
Yeah, good point. We'll see where that goes. Bobby's being let out of jail.
Yes, Bobby didn't say anything, but just the look on his face, it was great.
Yeah, that was great. Gemma was picking up Abel, right? Taking him for a checkup.
Yep.
But then one thing I noticed was at the hospital there, since we're at the hospital, you see Unser in the chapel at the hospital,
Yes.
lost in thought. And at first I was like, what is he doing there? Like, I don't get why he's there. As the episode kind of continues, you start to put it together. He's contemplating his mortality is the way I read it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And then in that opening scene too, I made a note. Do you remember when they were firing those guns and who had to change the
Poor half sack.
poor half sack? Yeah, he had to change
Poor half sack.
the target, put the target up. That was funny.
Now, here's the thing, and this is a little, this gives you a sense, I guess, of what it would be like to be a prospect for an outlaw club. But like, I remember teasing and playing jokes on friends with things like whoopee cushions, maybe shooting a rubber band. They're firing guns
Pretty close to
and
him.
nearly hitting half sack. And for them, it's funny. It's a joke.
Yeah.
All right.
So
It's a different way of life that I don't think I'm prepared to be part of, Ken. I'm just going to be honest.
yeah, I don't fully understand it myself. But it kind of, the opening kind of touched on our key characters, key elements that they're going to dive deeper on throughout the rest of the episode.
Yeah, absolutely. It sets the table for the whole kind of series. And I think at the same time, it catches you up on where we left off.
Yeah, it does that.
Right? Because also don't forget, you had Piney dropping off Opie's kids at school in the Cadillac,
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
which was fantastic as well. But yeah, so all of this is covered as including a summary of season 1, right? You get that at the very opening.
Very opening.
Then you go into the cold open, and 12 and a half minutes later, the credits roll, and you're just kind of like, I was already in the episode.
Yeah.
We're only getting to the opening credits.
That's funny.
There's a lot there.
There is.
So let's go back to what you opened with, which was Sam Crow buying the guns from the Irish.
Okay.
This is kind of a core storyline, which I assume is going to bleed into other episodes and become an ongoing storyline. But the part I want to talk about, and I refer to this as Let's Make a Deal, which is the negotiation between Sam Crow and the Irish.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. So you've got the Irish that lays out this new deal of, yeah. We're not going to sell you the Russian parts that you assemble and then sell for a 60% margin. We're going to give you these assembled guns, and then we want you to play Instacart and deliver them for 20%, which you can tell, like you don't have to be very savvy to put two and two together and go, well, then that would be worse, wouldn't it? So Clay, you can tell he doesn't like it, but he says, like, what do you think, VP?
Yeah.
What do you think, VP?
What I liked about this moment is Jax doesn't share what he's thinking. He doesn't talk about it. He just looks over, and I think he said it to Juice. He's like, bring the Irish back.
Yep. That's what he said.
And he just takes control.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Irish come back, and he basically starts negotiating and lays out the terms.
You get us the Russian guns we need to keep our Oakland business intact. We use your facility to store and assemble. Then we'll run your hardware up the coast. But MC Pony Express is going to cost you 30%.
I don't know if Jax is just a really shrewd negotiator or the Irish suck at it, but this is a pretty damn good deal that Jax has negotiated.
Yeah, and he did it on the fly. With he took control of the situation. And did you catch what he said when he was done with the deal?
Yeah, so he basically presents the deal he's negotiated, and you can see Clay's pissed that Jax has just kind of done this. Mm-hmm. And what does Jax say?
He says, "Call a vote, Prez." Kind of, very. Yeah, he was cynical.
Because he's like, I know I've negotiated something that people are going to approve. Like, the deal's done, and you can feel that tension between Clay and Jax.
You can see it.
And my take on this is because Jax knows that Clay knows that Jax knows Clay tried to kill Opie.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. I know it took a long way to get there, but you understand what I'm saying,
I do.
right?
I do.
Jax knows Clay tried to kill Opie. Clay knows that. So Jax is kind of in that position of, what are you going to do about it? Like, I hold all the cards. You want me to stay quiet? You're going to keep your mouth shut. And so Jax is taking advantage of that opportunity. Because he knows, like, I've got dirt on you.
Yeah. Without coming out and saying it.
That's right. That's right. And then you can see at the end of that scene, all Tig is worried about is Opie's coming back and what's going to happen, because Jax and Piney know what we did.
Yeah.
Opie's gonna want payback for Donna's death, right? Jax and Piney both know it wasn't the Niners. Any ideas with how we're gonna land with this?
Give Tram a call. We're gonna need some police intel.
I can do that.
It really sets up this tension within Sam Crow. And we don't know where it's going to go, but it's very clear, like, this is not over.
Nope.
So that really kind of is a great opening scene that kind of, I think this is going to be an ongoing thing of this gun running that will probably come up in other episodes. But it was really interesting the way that I think Kurt wrote the episode to take this and weave in all of this backstory around Donna's death and the power struggle that is now resulting from that, and how it's kind of emboldened Jax to do things that maybe he normally wouldn't do because he feels like he has leverage with Clay.
Yeah.
All right.
Good writing. Good writing.
It's fantastic writing. Yeah. So what do you got next for us?
What's next? Did you happen to catch the scene where Unser's coming out of the hospital and he sits on the bench?
Yeah. So this ties into what you said earlier, where Gemma, bringing Abel in for a checkup, sees Unser in the hospital chapel.
That's right.
And doesn't stop or say anything. And so Gemma sees Unser on the way out,
right,
and sits down, and they have a little chat.
Yeah, and it's a serious chat. I mean, you can tell he's really coming to grips with his mortality and thinking about it. Gemma's concerned. She sees that he's in bad shape.
Wait.
Gemma. It's just a follow-up.
Where you at with it?
The BCGs are keeping it contained in my bladder.
When Gemma sits down and starts to ask him how he's doing, what you see is Unser deflecting, downplaying. He doesn't really share with Gemma the truth. But Gemma knows because she saw him.
That it's more serious
in
than
that chapel.
That it's more serious than he's letting on.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And I think that's kind of why Gemma lights up the joint. Like, she knows this guy's dying. He's probably in pain. And so this is a small gesture that will make him feel a little better.
Right. So, continuing to keep up on the pace here. I know we're running long here. What do you got? What jumped out at you?
So let's just talk quickly about, we mentioned that we have Alan Arkin, head of Lone, and AJ Weston, played by Henry Wallens. There's a scene that I'll just touch on for a minute, but it's where AJ Weston's character goes and meets with Darby, which makes perfect sense, right? You've got Darby, who's part of the Nords, and you've got Lone, and they have similar kind of goals and beliefs. And so AJ goes and meets Darby. It's not quite the meeting that you're expecting. You're thinking these two to be kindred spirits.
Yeah.
It went a little differently.
It did.
Than I thought it would.
I thought they were like part of the same team.
Yes, exactly. And I think it won't come as a surprise for anyone who's seen the episode, but it's that end of that scene when AJ says,
If I were you, I'd button your shirt.
I got nothing to hide.
It's not about hiding. You haven't earned it.
it's so unexpected And I like the fact that it's not just a simple, we're on the same team. I like that dynamic and the additional complexity that Kurt put into that dynamic, because the assumption is these two are going to be kindred spirits and get along famously. And what you realize is they actually don't think that Darby is worthy. Like, he's below them. So wrap up the first half of the episode for us, Ken. What do you got for point 5?
Well, I think the party, there's a lot of, the party seems to run throughout the last half of the entire show.
True.
But
true.
they're having a welcome party for Bobby.
Okay. Yep.
And everyone kind of greets Opie when he gets there, right?
Right, which those are two separate things, right? You got Opie returning in church.
Sure.
And then later you've got Bobby coming.
That's
from
right.
The party.
That's right. So the first part would be Opie.
Yes.
Bobby doesn't arrive till later.
Correct.
So Opie shows up, and I don't know about you, but I was watching to see that reaction when he
I was on the edge of my seat
to
watch that reaction.
Sure. And you could see the look on Clay and Tig's face. They just have this guilty look on their face.
Well, and they don't know what to expect. Like, they don't know what Opie knows.
They don't. And
so it's this, I don't know what's going to happen here,
right.
but I'm just going to play along.
Right. I mean, they all embrace each other. They hug each other, welcome back and all that. But you see that what Jax and Piney know, and Piney's kind of like, he's ready. He wants things to escalate. But Jax pulls him aside and talks him away from doing that. And he's unhappy about that.
Clay tried to kill my son. He slaughtered his wife by mistake. I'm depending on you to make that right.
Look, you gotta trust me, Piney. Me fixing things doesn't happen quick or easy. Right now, it's about protecting Ope.
Yeah, the thing with Piney is, like, there's the fact that they murdered his son's wife, which is horrific enough, right? Like, that in and of itself would put me over the edge as a parent. But the bigger issue here, not to take anything away from Donna's death, but Donna was not the intended target.
Nope.
So Piney's sitting there going, you wanted and attempted to kill my son. You botched it and killed his wife instead, but let's not lose sight of what your intent was. I would be fit to be tied too.
Yeah, the fact that he could be that restrained.
And now everybody, well, not everybody, like for Piney and Jax and Clay and Tig, you got to sit there and look the man in the eye, Opie, and lie to him.
Right.
For very different reasons, but you still have to lie to him. And that would be hard to do as well.
Yeah. So after that, they end up in church, right? And they're discussing what needs to happen or what the plan should be. And Clay leads Opie down the path that it's the Mayans, right?
Mayans? How do you know?
Jackson Piney talked with Leroy, so we know it wasn't the Niners.
That's right. As far as Leroy's concerned, the Niners and the SOA are good.
And when Clay shares the intel that they get from Trammell, which is all fake, and Opie says he wants to do it, and Clay's like, agreed, right? And then Clay suggests that it's Tig and Chibs that go with them. And like the timing of it, like Jax immediately goes, and me, and shoots this look to Clay like, the hell are you doing?
I'm going to be there.
And then Opie, oblivious to all of it, just is like, yeah, I want Jax there. Things are coming to a head between Clay and Jax.
To now find a person worthy of being killed. So as church ends, Jax goes and closes the door, and it's just Jax and Clay, and they're there talking. Jax says,
Whoever you put this murder on, just make sure they deserve to die. Because the guy that killed Donna is out there sharing a beer with her husband.
Such a great line.
yeah.
Cutting. And of course, that, Clay bristles with that. So he's like, you better be real careful how you navigate around this one.
And then he says, what, are you going to put a bullet in my head? So he's calling on him. He knows that Jax knows what he has on him. He's holding the cards.
And he knows it, and he's pushing it.
Yep.
And that's going to do it for part 2. Once again, remember to like and subscribe. Do check out our channel for more shows. And be sure to join us for part 3, where I can guarantee you we're going to go long, but we'll also keep enjoying some Michter's US1 Kentucky Straight Bourbon and wrap up our discussion of Sons of Anarchy, Season 2, Episode 1, titled Albification. Stay with us.